Shemakrita agus Bona. Ach, my heart is weary all alone, and it sends a lonely cry to the land that sings beyond my dreams, and the lonely Sundays pass me by. Agus agus yond of song, Shemakrita agus Brona. I would travel back the winding years in the bitter wasted winds, if the God above would let me lie in a quiet place above the winds. Agus yond of song, Shemakrita agus Brona.
Very much. There's not very much more to be said after that, but I suppose it would be wrong and unfitting to not ponder upon some of the points in the film, and also prolong the inspiration in it as well, maybe with some questions and some talk maybe from the producers and the three heroes. We've got two of them here tonight. Alan couldn't be here, Alan McBride. But it'd be wonderful to have Joyce and Johnny up here, and Eugene Reilly, and Beryl, please, if you come up. Hey, Joyce. Any sign of Eugene Reilly? Very good. Eugene, good at any time. Well, before we go any further, Johnny and Joyce, maybe tell us a little bit about the background and how the film came about in the first place and why it came about.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's so wonderful to see so many people here, so thanks for packing out the venue. So let's start. I'll just start with how I met Johnny. So I've been doing some work in Lebanon since about 2012. I've been visiting Lebanon, spending time in Shatila refugee camp in Beirut, in the Palestinian camp there. And throughout my time there, I developed a real interest in peace building and reconciliation, and particularly in the context of Lebanon and kind of issues surrounding that. And during that time, I eventually met a mutual friend of ours now who had spent 5 years here in Northern Ireland as in Johnny's community here in Belfast. He'd been doing some peace building work here and had just returned to Lebanon to kind of begin his own work there. And so I was out in Lebanon last September with him, for a kind of conference there, and Johnny was there at the time. I hadn't met Johnny before; I kind of knew of him, but we were there together, and we were just one evening. Johnny shared with me this kind of this idea this kind of vision, this kind of dream he'd had for a film, if you like. And I, at the time, was, so my day job is with Global Fire Creative, the creative agency and the kind of production house behind this film. And I've been, as a result of what I've been doing in Lebanon, I studied peace building and reconciliation and was really looking to kind of marry together the day job of the video and the film stuff with more of a focus on kind of peace building. And particularly how we use stories to kind of shape our understanding of the world around us, and through the creative act of storytelling, we can shape the kind of often discordance we find in conflict into a mirror narrative, and how we situate ourselves within that as we encounter the stories of others. And I think Johnny's quote in the film about identity being what makes us different and stories what make us the same, really summing that up. So yeah, so that's where I was at. And then I met Johnny and he shared with me this idea, and I'll let him talk more about that in a minute. But I went back to Global Fire, and Global Fire has kind of a charitable arm of what we do, which really seeks to use our kind of media services for some kind of good by supporting non-profit work and particularly issues around kind of social justice initiatives. And fortunately, they were interested in getting us on board. So, yeah, I'll let Johnny tell you the rest.
Josh, before you hand over to Johnny, in case you don't know him, he lives in Rostrevor. And remember when he came first, someone said, "Is he a Catholic or a Protestant?" I said, "I'm not too sure." And I said, "Maybe he's a Christian or something." But I know we are very grateful for the divine breezes that nudged him towards the shores of Ireland from New Zealand and from the United States and various other places. Johnny, I suppose when you're doing something like this, and you've lived here long enough, it's not easy to find. It's a tightrope to walk that line down the middle. It's stepping amongst landmines. But I think you've both achieved something wonderful there.
Thank you, Tommy. Yeah, and thank you all guys for being here. I think it is a tightrope, and I wasn't really actually, I don't usually get nervous about things until the moment it happens. So like on my wedding day, I was never nervous about getting married until Jen started walking up the aisle. And then I started thinking, you should really think about these things before you rush into marriage, And it was the same last night. I suddenly was like, what are we doing? We're talking about the troubles and people that died, and in the audience were people who had suffered and evolved, and were involved in probably every possible spectrum last night. And suddenly I felt very nervous. Like, this is kind of crazy to do this kind of thing. So you're kind of aware that it's very hard to get it right. I remember the Cecil Kerr that started the Christian Renewal Center where I now work, we call it Ankuan. He said, if people are shooting at you from both sides, not literally, metaphorically, it probably means you're doing the right thing, And so I think we tried to address a very complex issue. The daydream. I said yesterday, it's a daydream. Most of my daydreams, I said, don't usually see the light of day. Fortunately, I met Josh, who's like going, that's a great daydream. Let's make it happen. The actual dream really is to look at places of conflict all over the world and find the redemptive stories in Lebanon and Palestine and Israel, in Rwanda and Burundi and South Africa and Baltimore and who knows wherever else. And sadly, we could probably spend the rest of our lives cataloging both the horror, but also, the beauty in places like that. So that's the dream, and hopefully we'll get on to the next project soon in one sense. But this thing, I don't know, we'll probably take it out and screen it places, and who knows where it'll end up. And I just want to also say at the very beginning how privileged I am. I've known Beryl for years, since we went to church together a long time ago, and Peter and their kids. And I've been blessed to meet Eugene in the last couple of years. And these guys are amazing. And it's been a privilege, most of all, to tell their stories. And I really hope, I was also nervous last night because I was aware, because I don't know. Well, Eugene says he hadn't watched the movie. I sent him like about a
Oh,
month
didn't
ago, but he said he hadn't watched. And then I'm like, I hope Eugene likes it. Like, what if
You
he
asked
doesn't like
Denise.
it? He gets up in the middle and goes,
Do I know what a link is, Denise?
So anyway,
Well, I think the tremendous thing about the film, it was beautiful. It's terrible. It's Yates put it, terrible beauty. But not only did the people in it suffer so much, but they were able to come through it with to give a sense of an amazing sense of inspiration. And I'd just like to ask Beryl and Eugene, and then I'm going to go down here, and you can ask some questions. It's a natural thing to seek revenge or to hate whenever you're hurt so much. And I'm just wondering, must you find some supernaturalness within yourself or beyond yourself to be able to deal with this? Maybe Beryl, if you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I need to say at the beginning, can you hear me all right? I need to say at the beginning that my spiritual journey was not nearly as passionate to be in love with the Lord as it was from that day when Bill was killed, because I really did feel a tangible presence of Father God in the midst of what was going on. And it was within seconds of going indoors to phone for ambulance, police, or whatever, that I felt God speaking to me. And that conversation you would have seen on the film, where he was challenging me about what was I going to do about this, or what was my attitude. And so when you hear within your being the voice of God asking you, what are you going to do? And pointing the Lord's Prayer about forgiveness, I thought, well, if this faith journey means anything, if I want to be the fragrance and the presence of Jesus, I need to act like him. And so that was the challenge. And I said, right, okay, Lord, I'll do as you're asking, but I can't do this of myself. And I need your strength. And he is faithful. And in a country where so much is broken, people are broken, our politicians are not functioning, the churches are perhaps not the peacemakers and the bridge builders that maybe they should be. We, the people with our feet on the ground, need to do something. We need to reach out. We need to listen. We need to talk. We need to find out who the other person is, rather than making up our minds from what we've heard about what they are, what they believe. It's about conversations. It's about getting to know people, and hopefully bringing about a sense of peace. This is Advent. Peace, hope, love, joy. How many of us can say that those things are in our hearts, and that's the way we live? So that's where my heart beats, that I want to live a life of peace. I want to know the joy in living. I want to have that sense of hope for the future, for the now and for the future, and live a life of love. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Beryl. Thank you. Eugene?
Well, I was just looking at that film there, and I probably put too much emphasis on the harshness of what happened, and I probably should have talked more about the collusion that happened behind the scenes here. And then afterwards, I didn't know who to hate, because I didn't know who did this. I mean, if somebody had told me on the night of the murder it was the police or the UDR or the soldiers, I wouldn't believe them. So I didn't know who my enemy was, but by God, I was not finding out, because like what I have told you there, that didn't only happen to me, that happened to my family, that happened to my mother and father. My wife got taken out of the car, she got taken up the field when she was going to school. I mean, it was a whole complete, and what brought this on, I don't know. My mother was full of compassion and reconciliation and everything you want to think of. And I got that very difficult, because when I went outside, I felt the heavy fist coming on me. So it was a bit slower and a bit more, and with Alan and Beryl and most of the people, once the shooting happened, there was no aftermath. Whereas in our case, we didn't know what the police was or the soldiers were prior to these shootings, but we knew afterwards, and we still know to this day, because they had to justify what they had done. And the only way they could justify that was for to keep making sure that if your Protestant neighbours was coming up the road and they had you at a checkpoint, that they took you out, they put you up again, they took the coat off you, they took your shoes off, and made an example of you every time they could get a chance at it. This here has only stopped, like, I mean, the real nonsense is not long stopped. And Ian Paisley didn't have this because he accused me of being involved in the shooting of the people at Kings Mills. And we were at Kings Mills. We were the first car there coming from Whitecross, but we were on our way to Newry for to bring home the corpses of our brothers. We weren't at Kings Mills for to shoot anybody or do that again. Thank you.
I know Alan McBride is a great friend of yours, of course, called on the Paisley family maybe to recant that. Would that mean a lot to you if that happened?
Well, I was supposed to meet Kyle Paisley on a few years back. I don't know what happened that we didn't meet, but apparently somebody leaked it to the press. It wasn't me because I wasn't speaking to any press. So, and then Kyle pulled out, but that wasn't why Kyle pulled out. He's been very disingenuous in this. It was Ian Jr. put his foot on it and stopped it. But like, I mean, I would like to meet the man, talk to him, and see. Like Paisley said one time that he would meet us, and he took us down to Stormont, and I had my solicitor with me, and Paddy Ohan, and he was a barrister at the time, but he was an MP. And we went down with great hopes of meeting him. And then Ian Jr. came over and he says, my dad is not going to add anything to the statement that he has already made. Good day. So that was the end of that.
I suppose the news these days would say that there may not be justice or truth through the courts and so on. Do you think, can a film or art, this type of way, is it a way to acknowledge, is it important for others to acknowledge that pain that you've come through? Beryl?
I think the film is very, very worthwhile having been made and being shown, because I think it reminds us of the horrors of what went on and what we've done to one another. And I think that it also reminds us that we have been led into places by politicians. We've been hoodwinked, and we need to take a stand and be our own people. And so seeing something like this in the reality of the pain that goes on and on and on, and in many cases can go on into the next generation, is worthwhile. Anything that stops us in our tracks and says, look, we can't let that happen again. We must do something to stop it.
Thanks, Beryl. I'm not too sure how we're fixed for time, Johnny, but would anyone like to ask any questions?
We need to use the microphone for the questions.
Okay.
Neil, you want to first?
Oh, yes.
Any questions?
Any thoughts, even comments, other than questions? Do you feel it's a strong film? Did it touch you in any way?
Just a break. Is it on?
No.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, aye, it's coming through. My name's John McGrath. I'm a friend of Johnny's and of the base. Just a question directed to Eugene and Barrow, and thank you so much for your contribution. My parents are both from Northern Ireland, from North Belfast and East Belfast, and it's funny, the Troubles shaped so much of their life, but growing up, I never heard much of it. My dad would have said, "Oh, I remember the days when there was a cage around the city centre in Belfast, and he would have talked about walking home, and Mum would have talked about police helicopters flying over the old park where they were from, and coming outside, and there were soldiers in the bush." But my question's really for young people nowadays, who, particularly in deprived areas of Belfast, my community where I live in North Belfast, who are so impacted by the trauma of living in conflict areas. What would your be advice to for young people coming up who are at risk of getting involved in things that they didn't grow up in? What would be your advice to Christian young people navigating that space and trying to be a force for peace and for good?
Well, a lot of months ago, we were up in Derry doing a talk one night, and the parents begged us for them to come to the bog side and speak to the kids, but to the schools. I said, well, I have been going to some schools, and it's the 16, 17-year-olds that we're speaking to. And this lady said, no, she said, it needs to be the 12, 13-year-old, because that's the time that they be like that people's putting pressure on them for to join this and join that and join the other. We didn't get it done in Derry, and then on the 9th, 10th, 11th of July, I'm sitting watching the TV and I see all these young guys, maybe only 10 or 12 years of age, firing stones at the soldiers. And it sort of brought home to me the fact that we need to keep doing what we're doing. But a couple of weeks ago there, we were in a school in inner city Dublin, 17-year-old girls. Some of them, some of the kids had been affected by that Kinahan war that was on. None of them here tell of the troubles in the north. None of them. They hadn't a clue. They didn't know where Northern Ireland was hardly. That's the gospel truth. So, there's a great need for me people to be able to speak to them and tell them that war is not all this glitz that people think it is. That it is that it's got a downside. And we do alter our stories a wee bit. We don't go into all that detail. But Irish history is not taught anymore in the south. That's the truth, because Fine Gael thought that it helped Labour and Fianna Fáil, and they stopped it. It is not a compulsory subject, Irish history in the south.
In the film, Alan himself said that as a young Protestant, he went to 174 Trust with the object of converting the Republicans from their Catholic faith to become Protestants. And he said, laughingly, I think they converted him. I think it's about meeting the other people. And I think for any young person growing up in a largely, predominantly their same tribe, I think it's healthy if they can meet with other people, not necessarily from across the city, but there's all kinds of, youth initiatives are doing great work with young people. And it's getting out there and meeting other young people, listening to what they're saying, what's going on in their schools, in their lives, that makes you realize that there's not that much actually that separates us. And some of the things we've been taught perhaps are not fully truthful. And I think whenever you get to know the stranger, I'm not sure that you can hate that person in the same way as you did when they were a stranger. So I would say to anybody, mix, get out there, meet other people, listen to their stories, let them listen to yours, and hopefully we'll find a way forward where we can walk the path together.
Did you want to say something? Lady, my eyes are all funny. All the right. Yourself? Beside the lady with the glasses.
No.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something? Oh, sorry. Okay. Excuse me.
Peter Quigley, husband of Beryl. Only just a comment. I think that one of the things we all need to take on board. So it's so easy sometimes to just not speak up, not make the comment, and allow the person that we're talking to or wherever we are to do the othering. And we need to challenge that constantly in the stories that we tell, the words that we use, the language that we use. For example, in terms of language, I will not use the phrase born again if that alienates someone from me. I'm happy, I will talk about coming to faith. I will talk about Jesus because I love him. But in this country, constantly, all we have to do is listen to the Nolan show or Crawley on Talkback, and you listen to the comments that are coming through, and they are vexatious to the human spirit, that all these years after the Good Friday Agreement, we have this bitterness, and it's not being challenged. And it has to be challenged from the church, from leaders, from you and from me. We have to stop the othering and start to reach out positively. It's the apathy that's allowing, you know the quote, when, what is it, good people do nothing or something. You know the one I mean. So I would say to each of us here, if we can make a difference in our place of work, in our spheres of influence, within our groups, that we challenge people about the perceptions that they have and begin to reach out, we can make a difference.
Hi, I just wanted to say that should be shown everywhere, as well as Colin Davidson's silent testimony and Patrick Kilty's. These should be shown a lot more, so it drowns out your Nolan commentary and that negative, and basically that positivity and the silent voices getting to speak.
I'd just like to congratulate you, Philip. Excellent. But personally, I think one of our biggest problems in the north of Ireland is a Christian, so-called Christian organisation called the Orange Order, who every year march up and down the roads and just pure hatred every time. Until somebody grabs by the whatevers and sorts out and stops this nonsense marching up and down, walking over people, and creating generations of new kids coming in to hate other people. And they're showing it on the BBC and they're promoting it all the day long. Until you take that out of Northern Ireland, we're always going to have trouble. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment about that? Because I think I would say a lot of people I know would wholeheartedly agree with you. But also, when I hear it, I also feel quite despairing because I'm like, well, how's that ever going to happen, you know? And I remember Jen and I, my wife and I, we lived in the Shankill for 8 years, in the lower Shankill for most of that time. And obviously, you know, I'm born in New Zealand, but lived all at Coleraine, East Belfast. And then when I moved there in my late 20s, it was a real culture shock to me. I mean, I might as well have moved to Russia, you know? And I remember it came to the 11th of July and it was a bonfire. And I was like, I have to say, sorry to offend anyone, but I never go to the bonfires. I went in 1985 when I first moved here and it rained and I thought I'm never going back there. But I decided to go, and what was ironic is that I'd spent a year living in an area where I'd seen internal fractions of fighting within each other, gossiping, hatred, families, not Protestant Catholic, internally really hating each other. But on the bonfire night, everyone was there, and moms with their prams, and it was a very surreal kind of thing. And then the UDA came out with balaclavas and shot a couple of shots in the air. And Tina Turner comes on singing "Simply the Best," and it was and then the bonfire starts, and everyone, you could just feel the electricity. And then, of course, the Irish flag finally catches light, and everyone applauds, and it was very bizarre because it was like cognitive dissonance. I was seeing this very fractious, troubled, broken area united in excitement, and that felt kind of good. But yet, obviously, they were excited about all the wrong stuff, you know? And it comes to one of my bugbears. Alan kind of ended there talking about this bonfire. The Catholic neighbor of his built a bonfire for him. In 1995, I was in South Africa. It was the first year of a new non-white government. Nelson Mandela was the leader. The middle of December, I think it is a day of the day of the blood of the vow, where white South Africans remembered that they had been surrounded by hundreds of thousands of black Zulus, and they prayed, and God gave them this victory, and many thousands were killed of black people. And so they built a monument in Pretoria, and they said every day, once a year, we're going to remember that our God saved us, our white people, you know? And so when Mandela came in, he goes, well, that's not a very good day to remember in a rainbow nation, you know, where one group remembers that they killed a whole bunch of the other group. So, but instead of doing away with the day, they called it a day of reconciliation. And so it's still a public holiday to this day in South Africa, a day of reconciliation. Everyone gets to go off work, goes to the beach or whatever. And that made me kind of think, maybe we're never going to get rid of bonfires and some stuff, you know, maybe, I don't know, but maybe is there a way that we could redeem some of these really horrible sectarian symbols that divide us somehow, so they become something that brings us together? I know it's not easy, but that's my only kind of thing. That's my little thing. So
I just like to say that relationships between the communities on the ground, certainly in the area I come from, is far, far better than what people think it is. And I think that the ordinary people are years ahead of the politicians. We've been very, very badly failed and let down by all the politicians up on the hill.
Question over here.
I mostly just have a comment. I'm not originally from here, as you can tell, but I'm raising my 3 kids here. And the other day, my 9-year-old came into my bedroom in the morning and said, so, Mom, what's a Protestant and a Catholic? And I'm raising my kids in inner East Belfast, and they're surrounded by the symbols of division and what that means. And I think something that I love about Northern Ireland is well, one of the things that's so sad is the atrocities and the horror that has happened and continues. And yet what I love is the glimpses of hope that we see. And I just want to thank you for being an example of hope and for leading a way and being an example to my children and to others here.
I've got one here. Sorry, that's very loud.
Hi, I'm an Italian man. Thank you anyway for all the things that you show me tonight. I don't know if what I feel to say is that I feel that, in my opinion, which is only my personal opinion, of course, a part of responsibilities, what's happened, not merely here, but everywhere there is a conflict between 2 different sides, is maybe the education system, as they teach maths, English, or any other kind of lesson at school without complex. Maybe should have helped more to mix up both from the very, very, very beginning. When I say very, very beginning, I mean when they are 6, 7 years old, to teach the history of the island, the history, United Kingdom, anyway, both history, and try to, that may could have helped also to create a better understanding of what the 2 sides can sharing together and what the 2 sides instead maybe they have nothing to do together and what they do have together. And as I say, the gentleman there say, it's not from the hills of Stormont, they should start this. It should be start from the bottom. I think education system is part of the bottom. I think it should be more integrated, basically.
Thank you.
I just want to mention, as well as being involved with peaceful or with the Truth and Reconciliation program, we also have a wee cross community group up with us up near Whitecross, and we call it Peaceful Future South Armagh, and we have 9 schools now in Fall. Now, the road I live on It's about 4.5 miles long, and there was 30 people murdered on that road. You know, civilians, UDR, police, army, name it. And on where Mitchell's gang all came from, it's only 1.5 miles down the road, but it may as well be 500 miles away. They never come to White Cross, they never come our side. They go to Margarethead or they go to Armagh. And our crowd go to Newry or Dundalk. But we have 9 schools along that pathway, Protestant and Catholic, that have all joined up with us now, and we take them away for middays out. We take them to the Balmoral show, we take them to the pantomimes, we do different things. And then in the senior section of it, we take over 55 farmers away down south every year to the plough match or something that like there's on down there. Some of these farmers have never been in the south before. And you know, years ago, at the start of the state, 84% of everything that was produced in Northern Ireland went south. Nowadays, if you heard the figure, it is really turned around and almost the other way. And I cannot understand how they got all these new roads. They are amazed at all these new roads. But we take those people away and we've a bit of crack, and it doesn't make a word. But when we come home, it's hard to get them to mix again. You know, so like, there's a lot of work to be done, and they can all pass themselves and do this, that, and the other. But it's a difficult thing for them to keep it all going. But I think maybe we'll get Tommy out to sing a few songs.
And another question?
One more over there. Yeah, sorry. I thought it was a fabulous program, and I really enjoyed the backdrop of the scenery and the music and the culture and everything that we all own, that we all share, that no side can claim. I thought it was very poignant. For Beryl and for Eugene, to bare your soul for us all is, I mean, that's very hard to do. And it's not stories we're hearing, it's truths. It's the truths of your life and how you strangers have become friends. And I really applaud you both for doing that. I would like to see the same kind of truths being offered back to families like yourselves, where the truths of how, like the people that Eugene's mother prayed for, the truths about the people who inflicted these wrongs upon you. I would like to see, a time and a place where truths at a corporate level, at a government level would be acknowledged, and then maybe more of us could enjoy the Northern Ireland that we have now, and the scenery and the culture and the music and the dance and the singing. But well done.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, you know, we don't all have to go home immediately, and if you want to have a little chat, maybe down around the bar or whatever, or...
Shall I introduce you? Yeah. First of all, just also want to thank Tommy Sands, who's part of the movie tonight and leading us tonight. Can I just say, where's that bucket that I had? I forgot to mention it. That's for you all, if you'd like to donate towards our work. Where is it? Is it over there, Sam? There it is. It's at the very back. We kind of are fairly skint. You know, you'd like to think that making a movie means I'm really doing well, but so far it hasn't affected much in a monetary sense. So if you'd like to support our work, that's back there. And but can I just close off this section and say thank you again to Eugene, Beryl, Alan, who's not here. They were going to be together on the 8th of February in Beaver Parish as part of the Four Corners Festival. Thanks to Tommy, who's part of the documentary. And Nalani and Anne Sands singing before. It was just amazing. So I think we may just finish with 2 songs if possible. Or, Tommy Sands and his family, let's give them a big round of applause.
Would Nalani be around there and Anne? Would you come up and join me? Good girl. I'll do a song Eugene asked me to do. It's a sad song, but sad songs were never meant to make us sad. They're meant to take the sadness out of us. My song for you this evening, it's not to make you sad, not for adding to the sorrows of this troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking, and it just won't leave my mind, to tell you of 2 friends one time who were both good friends of mine. Alan Bell from Benach, he lived just across the fields. Great man for the music and the dancing and the reels. O'Malley came from South Armagh to court young Alice Fair, and we'd often meet on the Ryan Road, and the laughter filled the air. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. Though Alan he was Protestant and Sean was Catholic born, it never made a difference, for the friendship it was strong. And sometimes in the evening, when we heard the sound of drums, we said it won't divide us, we will always be the one. For look around, our fathers ploughed in, the soil it is the same, and the places where we say our prayers have just got different names. We talked about the friends who died, and we hoped there'd be no more. It's little then we realized the tragedy in store. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. It was on a Sunday morning, and the awful news came round. Another killing has been done just outside Newry town. He knew that Alan had stopped there, we knew he liked the band. But when we heard that he was dead, we just could not understand. We gathered up the graveside on a cold and rainy day, and the minister, he closed his eyes and he prayed for a lonely bench. And all the ones who knew him from along the Ryan Road, he bowed our heads and he said a prayer
for the rescue of a soul. Roses, roses, there were roses. The tears of the people ran together. While fear filled the countryside, there was fear in every home. When a car of death came crowding round the lonely Ryan Road. A Catholic would be killed tonight, they'll even up the score. Oh Christ, it's your old Mary, prepare taking from the door. Alan was my friend, he cried, he begged them with his fear. Centuries of hatred, years that cannot heal. And now for a eye was all that filled their mind. And another eye for another eye, till everyone is blind. There were roses, roses, there were roses. The tears of the people ran together. There were roses, roses, there were roses. One more, but before I sing that, I'd love Yanni sing Bring Them All In.
Oh, yes.
Because that's what Johnny does and what this film does. And in the middle of all this darkness, all these candles could lit all over the place.
It's great that not having no words.
Oh, yeah.
There's no more on stick. Mama, if you stick.
Bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all into my heart. Bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all into my heart.
Bring a little fishes, bring the shores, bring them from the brightness, bring them from the dark.
Bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all into my heart. Bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all into my heart.
Bring the unforgiven, bring the unredeemed, bring the lost and nameless, let them all be saved.
Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all into my heart.
Bring them out of exile, bring them out of school, bring them out of burden, live and by door.
Bring them all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all in, bring it all into my heart. Bring them all in, bring it
them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in my heart. Bring me your forgiveness, bring me your redeemer, bring the lost forgiveness, and all be saved. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in my heart. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in my heart. Bring them all in, 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 bring them all in my heart.
Beautiful. We'll do one more and bring them all in. Is Johnny still down there? Has he got that bucket? Johnny, will you come up and join us for this song? Give him a big round of applause. Johnny. This is a song that we sing when we get together sometimes. And it's one of the songs that we sang up at the start during the agreement talks. And there's a chorus in it, and I can see the music shining out of your eyes. I know you'll be able to sing it. It's just a matter of opening your mouth and letting it out. The chorus goes, when we dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we love forever, down by the light side. That's all you have to sing. You won't get it the first time. And the second time, your lips will be moving, but not too much will be coming out. But after that, who knows? When we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we're loved, we'll love forever. Down by the wagon side. Thought she was a vision, struck me with her smile. Down by the river, we walked along in style. She says, you're welcome back again, won't you stay a while? Down by the wagon side. Let me dance. And when we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we're loved, we'll love forever. Down by the wagon side. I said, who owns that music that's so full of joy and pain? But the pipers and the harpers and the lambeg drummers play. She said, who owns the teardrops falling in the rain? Down by the wagon side. When we dance, and when we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we're loved, we'll love forever. Down by the wagon side. Do you not remember? We once walked side by side. So the bells of Belfast today might sing harmony and pride. The past that has been taken, the future's yours and mine. Down by the wagon side. And
When we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we love, we'll love forever. And by the light inside. Now I'd love to hear you singing it. I know you can do it. Are you ready? Throw back your head. Open your mouth as wide as is necessary for the flower of the songs. When we dance, we'll dance together. When we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. When we love, we'll love forever. And by the light, sing it again. When we dance, we'll dance together. When we cry, we'll hold each other. And we'll love forever. And by the light, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks everyone. That's all we've got time for, folks. So I think we're going to mill around for a wee while while we pack up. So feel free to have a chat. I don't know if the bar's still open, but thanks for being here, everyone. Keep an eye on our website and all that stuff for podcasts. And thanks to Tommy Sands, the Sands family, Anne Sands, and Melanie.